My name is Doug Tilden. I've been interested in archaeology my whole life, and I've been fortunate enough to work in the field every summer for the last 12 years. I've worked in Egypt, and I've worked in Belize in Central America. Even working in 115-degree desert heat or in the humid jungles of Central America, archaeology is fun, particularly when you find something. But what most people don't realize is that for every hour you spend excavating in the field, you spend at least 4 hours doing research and writing up your finds. To figure out where to excavate next, I spend days and days studying old documents and reading reports from earlier archaeologists to see what it is they might have missed. One of my group's most important finds was this grave of a Maya warrior queen, which we found in Belize. We identified its likely location from studying reports from the 1920s. Learning good study habits is probably the most important part of archaeology. Today and in several upcoming videos, I would like to introduce you to the Maya. The Maya are an indigenous people that inhabit the parts of Central America shown in yellow in this map. Scientific evidence indicates that they were the first people in this area, arising around 8000 BCE. Currently, there are about 5 million Maya people in the Mexican Yucatan, including Chiapas state, as well as in Guatemala, Belize, in northwest Honduras and northwest El Salvador. These are the areas that they historically populated, and some estimates are that there were as many as 10 million Maya in these areas at the peak of their civilization in 600 to 900 CE. In archaeology, we use the terms BCE, before Common Era, and CE, Common Era, rather than the more familiar in Christian countries, BC, before Christ, and AD, Anno Domini, or after Christ. So, who are the Maya? First of all, they're an ethnically similar people. They share similar genetic traits and therefore similar DNA. They share a common root language. Many Maya today are bilingual in Spanish or English, but they also speak in native dialects. There are over 300 native Maya dialects, although they all source back to a root language spoken during the peak of the Maya civilization. Culturally, they have belief systems that are loosely based on ancient Maya beliefs. Maya groups today often ask permission to hold ceremonies in the archaeological sites that we work in. These ceremonies are similar to ceremonies that were formed over 2,000 years ago. They also employ systems of agriculture that have been passed down for centuries and centuries. Why are the Maya historically important? From around 1500 BCE to 1000 CE, a period of 2,500 years, the Maya had the most well-developed of the Mesoamerican civilizations. Mesoamerica is defined as southern Mexico and Central America. But in reality, the Maya were the most advanced civilization anywhere in the Americas. They had a written language, one of the only Mesoamerican civilizations to have a written language. Even civilizations that came after them, like the Aztec and the Inca, did not have written languages. After the Maya collapse, around 1000 CE, the written language died off and was only reinterpreted and understood in the 1970s. They built elaborate cities. There are over 300 cities that have been identified, and we don't know that all the sites buried in deep jungles have yet been identified. This particular site is Tikal in Guatemala. It is so big that only 10% of the structures have been excavated. The rest are still covered in jungle. When I first went to Tikal, I thought it looked familiar. It turns out I had seen it before. It was used in the very first Star Wars movie as the background to the Rebel base. These large and complex cities were connected by an elaborate system of roads called sacbes. The Maya understood science. They understood astronomy. Although they did not have telescopes, many Maya buildings were built to line up with astronomical events. They understood and could plot the movement of the stars. This is an observatory in the Yucatan. They developed a complex calendar based on their observations of the movement of the sun. In geometry, they understood the geometry of architecture. Many of their structures are geometrically complex, as we'll see in a later video. In politics, they had a well-established political system. It's a very different system than what we use today in the U.S. and in Mexico. This panel shows the king and queen giving blood from their tongues at the start of the planting season. Kind of gross, huh? They had a complex system of gods that they believed caused all things to happen. This is one of my favorites, Chaac, the rain god. I've made him angry several times. They had beautiful arts. They worked in ceramics, and in stone, and in my favorite, jade. The Maya had no gold, so jade was their most precious stone. This is a king's death mask from southern Mexico. And lastly, they're very important because of the lessons we can learn from the Maya collapse in 1000 CE. At that time, their cities were abandoned to the jungle. There are lessons in that for us today. This picture is of a temple buried in the jungle. This is often how we find Maya structures. In future videos, we'll talk about the origins of the Maya and how they developed, how their cities and their civilization was organized, their religious beliefs, their language, their surprisingly complex buildings, their incredible artwork, and I will show you items that our team and others have found. We'll talk about the Maya collapse, and hopefully I'll be able to correct some popular misconceptions about the Maya. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon about the amazing Maya.